related to a particular tool. That it's going to include a little bit of an overview of it really quickly, just so it gives the context for anybody who didn't attend. But it's really going to be a workshop where we're going to do some asking 3 people to bring information related to their teams. No names have to be used, but putting it out there, we'll fill out this worksheet. And then what I'd like to do, Jamie, if we have the ability, is to possibly throw people into breakouts around these things. There would be 3. If not, we can play it as a whole group. The 3 people, when we get there, the 3 people who opted in would be definitely in they need to be in separate groups. And we'll find out who they are when we go forward. But the idea is that I want to have, I'll introduce the rules in a second. We're going to have players and we're going to have consultants. I'm facilitator. There'll be 3 people who'll opt in to play on the worksheets, and everybody else is going to act as consultants for these people. Have you ever had so many consultants and coaches around you? Probably not. So this is going to be an interesting thing. So we're going to do a lot of work in Miro today. So I'll send you out the link through chat if it hasn't been sent out already.
Just send it out, Frank.
Well, thank you, Jeff. So everybody give it a chance to get in there and go check that Miro. So Jamie, what's your preference for the group in terms of, I could certainly share the Miro board at the same time, but people have access to the Miro board. My preference is I'm not treating Miro as a slide deck where I'm showing up on the screen, but I am going to talk about things and people can navigate in Miro. Is this community in theory comfortable with going to Miro?
Yep, I think they are. So that would be fine.
Okay, cool. We'll go that way. So basically,
well, you know what, Frank, I'm sorry. We are recording this, so it might be nice to have you share the Miro board for those who watch the recording after.
Perfect. So what we can do is that, and then so everybody's going to witness myself. So everybody has that. I see people getting in there, and there's one thing particularly screened off right now because I just want people to not fiddle around and not play. So I always often put a screen over something so that it's locked, and then I remove it. So let me go ahead and let me just get a share going here. Bear with me 1 second. Let me do a screen share, and we're going to go to here, and we're going to go share. All right. So can you guys see there's a screen share going on here? Yeah, if I get a thumbs up on the share. Okay, cool. Which means I can subject you to dizziness if I want to. Whoa, all sorts of fun stuff. So ultimately, let me start on we're going to work left to right here today. And this is a workshop about how to use a particular tool that I refer to as a Layered Champion Worksheet. And the goal here is, if you take it to self-manages, we want to find out if there's any challenges with invisible lines of authority, is what we're going after here. And the invisible lines of authority could thereby influence the Layered Champion meeting, thereby influencing the team possibly, and infecting or in fact impacting, the self-management. So I'm going to zoom in here.
Hey, Frank, I wonder if you can click that button that hides everybody's cursor right up there in the upper right. That'll make it easier to, thanks.
Cool. Nobody likes the honeybees, huh? So ultimately, you can see we're working left to right here. We've got agenda, the quick overview. We've got some team stuff, and then we finish over there with a thank you. So we're working right to left to right. Over here in the agenda, what we're going to go through, just to really clearly explain, I'm going to go through a quick overview of Layered Champions. There is the video that you can watch. There is the deck that was made available. The worksheet that I'll use today, Jamie, I'll send it to you. You can also get that and distribute it out. So we're going to work left to right again. We're going to talk about the roles for today. Facilitator, that's me. Again, for the sake of the workshop, Jamie's wrapped around this, right? The people, the helpers with the Scrum Masters are wrapped around for the workshop. I'm the facilitator here. I'm going to ask for 3 people to volunteer to represent the teams. So it doesn't really matter if you're a Scrum Master or a product owner, but I'm looking for somebody who's playing Scrum, 3 teams to opt in. The rest of the people are going to act as consultants when we do a breakout. So the first step is we're going to go in and we're going to find our players, and we're going to fill out these boards, and I'll reveal the boards in a second. Then we're going to do the breakouts. Then we're going to do a debrief. We're going to pull everybody back and do a debrief. And in the debrief is where we're going to hear from the consultants. And one of them that was associated with a team, there'll be 3 teams today. One of them is those consultants is going to give us a brief summary of the challenges that they heard that this person had and some of the advice that they gave them. We're also going to be able to have that you guys are going to be providing those observations on stickies related to their team. At the end, we'll talk about, again, what's most useful about today. So we good so far? Okay, cool. So we're going to move over here just really quickly, the Layered Champions. Again, it's that space. This is the title sheet from the overview that we gave before. I'm just going to really quickly go down. What is it? Again, I'm calling it a team added to Scrum. I want you to think wrapped around. That has the perspectives of health, which could include self-management, of product, process, and people, the 3 Ps. Okay, so who's on that team? It includes people who are already accountable for things like health of product, health of process, health of people. What I see is product owner, Scrum Master, and the managers for the members of the dev team. Remember, Scrum says 3 roles. Dev team is anybody not PO or Scrum Master. I don't care if it's UX, testing, this, that, analytics. Scrum calls it dev, so that's what we call it. 3 perspectives. How many people does it take you to get these perspectives? Product owner 1, Scrum Master 1. How many people are on the dev team? How many managers of the people do you have on the dev team? So your product owner is a person, Scrum Master is a person, and say we had 1 manager for all the talent and skills on a dev team, then there'd be 3 people representing product, process, and people. If you, for example, had a dev manager responsible for the talent of the developers, and a QA manager responsible for the talent of the testers, and a UX manager responsible for the talent of the UX people on that team, well, there's 3 people needed to get the people perspective, plus the other 2, there'd be 5. So I don't want you to think it is 3 things, it's 3 perspectives. Who are the people needed to provide the perspectives from people, process, and product? In a nutshell, they get added with a series of behaviors called Layered Champion meetings. They can be cadence-based, and they can be triggered when things happen. And their job is to maintain the health of the value. With something, they can reach out to ask that layer for help. If there's changes that the organization making, those layers can help champion those changes coming in. They can also be defenders around if the changes would thrash a team. And they're also there for continuous improvement of the team and, in theory, patterns across teams. So this is just the Scrum diagram from scrum.org, basically with an overlap saying that the functional managers of the developers would be called into orbit. The Scrum Master comes up, the product owner comes up, and the product owner, Scrum Master, and functional managers need to get aligned on making sure that this team is set up and healthy and stays healthy. They're not managing the work. They're not managing the people. They're managing the continuous improvement and health and the value stream that this team is working on. Does that make sense? I'm not adding new rules to Scrum. Scrum exists. This is a practice that could be put around it. I know we have people on the call today, Jamie, for example, and Jeff and Ann, who have worked in this structure. And there are places that know nothing about this, and there are places that I've worked with who do know about this. So this is a Frankism for sure. And it is something that adds an immense amount of value and creates more champions in your organization. So any questions on that before we dive over to the team stuff?
So Frank, just real quickly, logistically, so we have a smaller audience today, and then we have several that have messaged that said they're not able to join a breakout room. Would it be possible to just do one room right here in front of everybody and have the consultant?
We can play it the whole way. What we'll still do 3 teams. We'll see if we can get 3 teams. Given the number of people, we can get 2. That'd be great. But what we can do is I'm gonna facilitate the people filling out the chart, and then we can all act as consultants together and talk to the person. What advice would you have for them? Let's go to team 2. What advice would you have to them? What advice would you have for them? So we can play it in a single room.
Okay, sounds good.
It simplifies it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and from my end, go ahead and get rid of this screen, and I'm going to just delete it. So the worksheet, I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it. Basically, the worksheet is in the center, right? Forget the things around the edge. The Layered Champion Worksheet is basically showing that you have these concentric circles. There is the first inner circle is the development team itself, the dev team. And that is what I often refer to as orbit zero. It's the very, very center. If there's a problem that they identify and they can solve it themselves, that's fantastic. They don't need any help from another layer. If they do need help from another layer, those next layer is, now you're talking the Scrum team. So product owners and Scrum Masters that are really, the Scrum guy got rid of the concept of dev team and Scrum team, but the concept is whenever possible, can the developers solve their own obstacle? That's fantastic. If they can't, they have near neighbors, product owner, Scrum Master on that Scrum team who should be able to help and solve. If they can't, however, then we don't take things up through the hierarchy of the organization to solve. We take it to the next concentric team to solve. In that case, that next concentric team in Frankland is the layered champion teams, which says product, process, and people leaders getting in to say, what help do they need? If that layer, for example, here, if I show in this blue stickies in here, we have a product owner, Scrum Master circle. Here is the team. If this needs help, it goes to the layered champion team. And if that layer can't solve it, then it goes out to the next layer of champions. To be clear, the product owner is considered a leader on the team and the layered champion team. The Scrum Master is a leader on the team and the layered champion team. When I talk about this, for example, this being a sticky that's representing everybody on the team, and we're going to find out who their managers are, the layered champion team does not need the manager of the product owner in. It does not need the manager of the Scrum Master in. It needs the product owner, Scrum Master, who are taking representation from the team and going out to the next layer and intersecting with the people leaders. So some people, when they see this, they say, oh, you invite all the managers in, the product owner manager, the Scrum Master. Like, no, we invite the leaders around the team. Scrum Master is a leader, product owner is a leader. That doesn't mean that the members of the development team don't lead. But the concept is, out here we have the functional managers, however many we'll find out, intersecting with the members of the other layered champions, product owner and Scrum Master. So the worksheet, basically the way that I use it is saying that first we need to find these possibly invisible lines of influence. There is not an ideal, but there is a situation that tends to go smoother. So if we look at this, we're going to have the people who opt in here to, they're going to enter the name. For example, if you are the Scrum Master, you would put your initials on the Scrum Master tag here. If you're on, for example, team 1, and then we'd say, great, can you put the initials of your product owner over here? Great. And now how many members are on that development team? Could you simply put, if you want the name of the team, or at least how many people are on that team? Let's say there were 5. Okay, great. Do they all have the same manager? They do? Great. Can you put that manager's initials out here? Fantastic. We could get rid of these other stickies. We would have one manager for this team. There's a product owner and a Scrum Master. If there was more than one manager, we would put the initials of however many managers are out there. Now, what we saw right there is when we do that is we're going to start to see these lines of hierarchy start to show up. These lines of influence start to show up. They're pretty invisible in meetings. We feel them or sense them, but I want them to start showing up. So then we're going to go back and say, okay, cool. Let's take an agile mindedness scale of 1 to 5. On a scale, and let's just play the game. On a scale of 1 to 5, Scrum Master says they're opting in to play today. And we say, okay, great. On a scale of 1 to 5, which is agile, the agile brain, agile mindedness, 5 out of 5 versus 1 out of 5. Do you think the Scrum Master on this team is somewhere between a 1 and a 5? What number? You just type in the number. So you'll have the initials and the agile mindedness. Then we come over here. What do you think your product owner is on a scale of 1 to 5 on agile goodness? Okay, great. Then I want you to think, what do you think on average the team is? Now we're dealing with averages. We're not going after every team member here, but what do you think the team is? Is this a 5 out of 5 rock star team? Is this a 1 out of 5 team? It's kind of a mix. Great. What do you think the average is for that team? Cool. If we had one manager, what do you think their agile mindedness is? We're just trying to get the numbers out there because we're looking for is there should be proper structure of a team. Product owner, devs, Scrum Master. Great, that's what Scrum says. We say, how big are each of those? Great, we get that information. What's the agile mindedness? Hold on, not only do we have lines of influence, we have lines of influence of possibly people who are not agile minded. This is what things that could start to impact things like self-management of the group of people on that sticky or the 3 stickies that make up the Scrum team. So we're going to try and attempt to see here with some people opting in, get information about initials just to show that there's a person there. If you don't have anybody in that role, great, you can leave it empty. It'll become a point the consultants can deal with. And we're looking for the agile mindedness. Step 1, name or initials. Use the tools to draw a line so you show the reporting structure. This is when things get crazy. For example, if we have members of the team who report to the product owner, you would show that line coming down to the product owner. And if you have members like, well, the Scrum Master is also a functional manager. Okay, so you draw that line down to here, because now we're seeing there's a line of influence here where the Scrum Master is also the manager. That's going to create some conflict of interest, potentially, especially on the agile mindedness if that was low. 1 out of 5 Scrum Master who's also a manager over the entire dev team. It gets me curious. So then what we're going to do is the second, so you see step 1, name, role, draw the line. Step 2, we're going to walk through a number, 1 out of 5, just a relative number. There's 3 teams that we have that we can do. And if we can find 3 people who want to play, we can do that. Let me do it a little bit more here. When in the first part where I'm going to ask questions, I'll be here to support you as those 3 people fill out their information on their sheet and draw those lines. Then what we're going to do is say, okay, we need some consultants here. We're not doing a breakout, so we'll start with team 1. We'll say, okay, cool. The player who opted in here, can you tell me about some of the challenges on your team? Consultants. And what we could do is we might want to say, let's pick a couple consultants, so not everybody's jamming in, to say, can you capture what you're hearing as their challenges over on some of these stickies? They don't need to stay in that formation, but the pink stickies are, what are some of the challenges that you're hearing? Over here, we might say, great, okay, is there any guidance you would like to give them? Right, so based on what you see with the lines and the reporting and some of these challenges, you guys get to coach today and talk about what do you think they should do, and putting some of that guidance over here. So you can speak it, but I also want to be able to see it show up here. So we're taking a real team, really mapping it and coming out with what challenges they're talking about, and possibly walking away with valuable guidance from this group so they could try and go back and influencing those challenges that they realistically do have. So we'll try and play this. I think the way to go is let's go a team at a time. We'll ask for 1 person to opt in. We'll go Mac it, we'll rip it through. If there's enough time, we'll go back to another one and we'll do it again. So we can go to a second one. But I want to see it run once at least for everybody.
So we have our first volunteer for team 1, and that's Ann Brea. She's volunteered.
Cool.
So she is our person for 1. And then we'll take volunteers for, I don't know how many consultants you want, or if you just are leaving it open to the group, but.
Yeah, let's start with Ann. We'll see how that fills up our time, then we'll grab. So if you guys are itching to, just toss your name in the chat, willing to volunteer, willing to opt in. You don't have to be a Scrum Master. You could be here and not a Scrum Master, but you're associated with it. You could be a functional manager in here. You could be a product owner here. You could be a developer here, but you're going to represent your team. So Ann, are you ready for the ride?
Sure.
Sure. So can you do me a favor? And again, so put yourself, we'll deal right here with this team 1. So put yourself into the picture. Where are you?
I am the Scrum Master.
Cool. So put your initials in the Scrum Master card for me, please.
Okay.
Cool. And what I do here as I go on is I want everybody's initials first. I don't want to get distracted by the agile maturity number yet, or the agile mindedness and maturity number yet. Okay, cool. And do you have a product owner? And you may be on multiple teams, so I want you to pick one that's relevant. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm thinking of a single team.
Okay.
To answer the
Cool.
just
a real team, not a made up team, not an
yes,
average.
Exactly.
Okay, can you put the product owner initials in there for me?
Okay.
Cool. And again, so up into the developers, what do we have up there?
Oh,
it's Jubin or JG.
Oh.
So Jubin, are you volunteering?
Yes.
So I want you to hold on. We're working team 1 with Ann first. So if you want, put your initials over in the center on purple for me.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
No, thank you for volunteering. Please don't be sorry.
And so, and again, how many people are on that team? Don't count yourself and don't count the Scrum Master. Or excuse me, Scrum Master product owner.
Wait, 4, 5. Yeah, because that's in my count. Who am I? 2, 5.
5. So just put a 5 in there.
With the number 5, right?
The number 5, yeah. Certainly, if you wanted to give the team a name, you could. We're just going to call it Team Blue for now, if that works.
5 blue, and then I was trying to connect the 5 to the blue because I know we're going to have another number on here.
Yeah, do the 5 as a word, please. That'll help.
Thank you. Oh, space. There we go.
Cool. And you can make that sticky bigger if we need to. So, and now we've got the name. I want you to draw the lines here. Okay, so I don't care about product owner and Scrum Master yet, but I want to go out there. So the 5 members of that, do all of them report to the same person or to a different people?
Okay, so it just occurred to me. So those 5 report to the same chapter lead. There's an open role on our team.
Okay.
And that when that role gets filled, it'll report to a second chapter lead.
Cool. So you have 2 chapter leads. Did that role exist before and you lost a
Yes.
person?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, and it's just so it's still open, and it's going to
Cool.
be filled.
So basically, if you look at the construct of the team, there's 2 managers related to this team, correct? So what's the
their initials?
Yeah, initials out here, please. Cool. And then and go after that one, correct? Right, so there we've got, that's the 2 managers, right, of the 5 members of the dev team, not product owner, manager. We're gonna find out in a second if there's anything weird going on with who's the manager, the Scrum Master and stuff. But that's the managers around the team, correct, Dan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So I'm taking away these blue cards, right? So based on that, the layered champion team would be Scrum Master and plus the product owner plus this person plus this person. This is a team who lost a member of the dev team. This is a layered champion team who should be plugged into that and figuring out what are we going to do in the meantime. So no matter what that role is, the same thing would happen if we lost one of the champions. If we lost product owner or Scrum Master, that team pulls together. People will often say as a tech lead in there, like, we want to keep the devs focused on the work as much as possible. They have clear representation from the team that they're on to represent their challenges of product and process. So there would be the layered champion team here. Now let's look at this. So Anne, who do you report to somebody in this picture or not?
No, I report to someone else.
You report away. Okay. So does the product owner report to or manage anybody here?
They report to one of the managers.
Cool. Can you draw a line from product owner to one of those people, please?
I believe I can. So product owner to, and maybe not. Oh, whoops. Oh no. I can use Miro. I'll get there in a minute. Oh, but I can now drag it. There.
There you go. Cool. So a product owner reports there. Okay, cool. Let's also do this. I know that the people on 5, 2 of that, but they report, but let's show the messy lines. Can you draw a line from, again, the 5 blue card out towards AR? And one arrow also would then go to MA as well, correct? Is that what I heard you say?
That, and yes, but that's the open role, but
Yeah,
yes,
but that's
it
where,
is
but it
still-
existed before. So draw me the line from team blue dev out to the MA.
thank you. That was my question.
Okay, cool. Now you said, and so we have developed a team there's influence happening here. Forget the direction of the arrows. There's influence here. There are managers in orbit of the team. Yes, they are the managers for the layered champion. It would make sense. But wait a minute. Real interesting here is like the layered champions are going to get together. That's right. Product owner and Scrum Master and the 2 managers are going to get together and talk about the team. Does anybody notice anything weird that might happen there with these lines? Is there anything weird in those layered champions meetings, possibly, Anne?
Well, there's a reporting structure that
Correct.
exists.
Because the product owner's boss is in that meeting.
Ideally not representing that role.
Ideally representing the plight of the other person,
Right.
not saying that there's a line of influence there where the product owners are leader, Scrum Master is a leader, the bosses are leaders, but the product owner's boss, who is somebody else's boss, is in there. That is interesting. Does that product owner have the relationship with their manager where they can speak openly and honestly or not? Is that person going to try to manage them in that meeting? Maybe. So just saying that we're starting to see these lines of influence. So, Anne, you don't report in there. Basically, you can throw a line that goes out to the right, up to that circle that's to the right of you by say orbit 3 is what I call it. So Anne's, as a Scrum Master, is I'm going to say the inside track here is, I know Anne, I work with Anne, I know which team she's talking about. And so do me a favor, make sure it doesn't cross the blue circles. If you can make it come down to the one right near the phrase orbit 3.
Oh, okay.
So it would be the next higher later if we needed it. Okay. So if I went over to where AR is the manager, right? That person also has a manager. Correct?
Yes.
You don't have to draw it, but the answer is there would be an arrow out to that next layer. And the product owner has a manager. What we see where they are, MA. And so the MA person also has a manager. So the MA and ARs report out, correct? Yep.
Yes.
Not to the same person though, to different people.
Yep.
Right. So we see that these lines of influence are showing up here. Now what we say is there's the team that tries to solve the problem. We say, great, self-manage. If they can't, they've got product owner and Scrum Master in orbit here. We say, okay, great. We say, we got to go out. See, there's nothing really funky there yet. Nobody's manager there. We go a little further and we start to hit this possible line of influence that says the product owner might have an authoritative influence in that layered champion meeting when they try to solve. Now, if there was something that, can you do me a favor? Oh, actually, never mind. You're good. If the team the dev can't solve it, product owner, Scrum Master can't solve it alone. So in this case, AE, AR, MA, and AB get together. They try to work to solve this. If they cannot, they would go to the next outer team, which would be AR's boss, MA's boss, the product owner's boss. Oh, look, it's already MA, and the Scrum Master's boss. Right? That would be the next outer team. So the concentric circles here are not going up through single points of hierarchy and reporting. They're enlisting a team to come in to make sure what do we need to do. So we just don't chase something up the product hierarchy to solve it, or up the Scrum Masters or up the dev, because all of these are influencers for good or not on the team. They need to be aligned and know when they've been asked to help. And there may be things that they want to bring down to the lower layer, but again, not smashing into the team and telling the team what to do. So here's an example. Let's go, Anne. I always love this too. On a scale of 1 to 5, what's the agile mindedness of AB?
I would love to say I'm a 5, but I also have a lot to learn, so I'm going to give myself a 4.
Cool. Can you put a 4 below your name in the AB, please? And then after that, what's the agile mindedness of the product owner?
I'm going to give them a 2.
Cool. Now there's if I ask the question, what's the agile willingness, right, versus the agile
Different.
ability, you might find
much
there are
higher
5
number.
out of 5 on willingness, but a 2 out of ability. So those are 2 different attributes. So in general, what do you think Team Blue is, the dev? What would you give them?
Because of the average, I think there are 2 also.
Okay, so put a 2 in there for me. You can make that sticky bigger if you need to. But you guys can see that Anne has some work cut out for her as a Scrum Master. She's got a team that may not be as high performing as they would like to be. She has a product owner who could be possibly influencing that because they aren't aware. They may be a hit the date person coming in there. They also, we're going to find out in a second what their manager's mindedness is, because we could have generations of low agile mindedness. So AR, what would you list AR, that manager's agile mindedness?
I'm not sure I can say it out loud. I'm just going to enter it.
Cool. So this is a wonderful time to get into awkward discussions when you really do this with real people in the room. If you want your layered champion team to get right to the heart of things, this is a fun thing to do. So do me a favor on MA. What's the agile mindedness there? Keep in mind, Scrum Masters are crazy. They can't come up with a number that's higher than themselves. They have to come up with a number that's lower. We're out of a job.
I just so everyone knows, I'm a little torn on this one, but I'm gonna land with 3.
Okay, cool. So now we see some lines of influence. Now, at the same time, we also see what we're going to call in general these guesstimations around agile mindedness. So we see that Anne, as the Scrum Master, has a team that needs some help. They probably don't get self-management. They're struggling with something, whatever agile mindedness needs for them. It could be events are missing, you name it. It could be what a 2 is. And then we're going to ask Anne in a second, what are some of those challenges? But now we just made visible that there's a possible reporting influence coming in from somebody who's not necessarily a 5 out of 5 or a 4 out of 5 mindset in a manager space. We're going to be holding a meeting that is where that manager is intersecting with one of the people they're responsible for. And so there's possible influence up, which could be there's silence, there's not full engagement. They could be talking to that person outside, do or don't this, personal velocities, whatever we want to go do here. Like, I need you to hit the date, say whatever you need to do to hit that date, could be happening. Just that a 3 means, I'm not saying why it's a 3, but 3s aren't 5s. 3s aren't 4s. So,
But they're better than 1.
But they're better than 1. So here what I want to do is, if anybody else wants to jump on over in the challenge stickies, I'm going to ask Anne about some of the challenges that they have on that team that might be, it may not be because of the lines, but these lines could be causing them. The challenges, you could say, where is there a challenge that's like the manager reporting, the PO reporting to a manager that's in Layered Champions could be perceived as a potential challenge. So I know when working with Anne is the decision about getting that person into the Layered Champion meeting went through fits and starts. There were hiccups because of that manager influence. There was an urge to keep it out. Yet that manager per Layered Champions has a valuable role to support that team member on the team. So if there wasn't that role on the team, they would be out. There is the role on the team. The reporting structure in Layered Champions says it has to be there. It was some interesting discussions that we went through to try and make sure that we understood the intent of it, what we can and can't talk about in that, just to make sure that that line of influence understood that it has influence and it should have proper influence. So anybody who wants to jump over, grab stickies and put in stuff as Anne talks out, I would welcome that. Anne, what do you have as some of your challenges?
Currently this week, a challenge of the manager, the AR manager, not being part of the single voicing message of the rest of the
Not aligned.
There we go.
The Layered Champions aren't aligned.
And I was your earlier comment at the beginning, the foundation, you're talking about the Layered Champion should be aligned about the support of the team. And this one is not, and is trying to catch up, and the messages that he's sharing with the team is not the same. And
there you go. So a 4, if we look at agile mindedness, a 4, a 2, a 3, and a 1, and the 1 seems to be communicating in a non-aligned fashion, possibly to team members or the team. Correct.
Yes.
Cool. Excellent. So anything else that you're seeing as a challenge?
The general low level of agility knowledge at all layers, at the team as well as the Layered Champion is.
So just that agile mindedness, the awareness, the understanding. Yep. Okay, great. So if we get somebody to drop in there again, what we just have is, again, you could say awareness, agile mindedness. Okay. So one more. What do you have, Anne, that you see as a challenge?
I'm sorry, I'm pausing. Those are so big that, and I've been so focused on those 2 There are
So
a number
so let's do
of-
this. Given time, let's stop there. We've got some challenges. We've talked about the ones that you have. We also discovered that there's possibly a reporting challenge in there, plus some general agile mindedness of those things in these influence lines could be off. So just looking at these pictures. So now what we're going to say is anybody on the call who's not Ann, and if your initials are AEMAAR, let's just have courage to listen to what people might have to say today. I'm just saying is the Scrum Master universe allows a lot of people in. So what I want to do is, can we hear from any about you're now consultants? Ann is looking for advice or guidance that you might give her based on the situation that you see before. She has a team of 5. She is the Scrum Master. There is a product owner. They're not breaking rules per that. We don't know about events. I know some stuff about events. We're not going to go into events.
Our events are now good. Thanks to the Layered Champion in this process, our events are now running.
There was a missing sprint review. I know there was a missing sprint review and some of the events were off with their habits. So when people look at what would they give advice to Ann in this situation based on the challenges that she mentioned and what you see here, any advice anybody wants to give? And if somebody wants to capture stuff over here, they can.
Or you can put it in chat as well, if you're uncomfortable. speaking
Correct.
it.
Correct. Anybody got any advice for Ann? Think the sky is the limit. What advice would you give Ann to try and remedy where she's at or improve from here?
I feel like I have really
Well-
big challenges ahead of me. I just want to share that.
So hold on. Here's what I say is I would be very scared to think that we have 20 people on the call who are Scrum Masters who can't provide guidance for this situation. Go for it. Anybody let loose. What do you got?
Well, I'll go, Frank.
Sure.
I'll kick us off, and maybe people can get warmed up. Maybe they're just thinking right now of what could be done. I see some people putting some things on the guidance, but if someone wants to document this for me, I would say that it would be useful to have a Scrum Master, product owner, or Scrum Master. I don't know who. Scrum Master with manager meetings, product owner. Well, that's already Layered Champion.
Correct.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, could you have a manager Scrum Master connect? Multiple,
What I'm
there's
hearing
other
is
managers in the organization. So let's say you're per line of business, you
Mhm.
have 3 managers in this line of business.
Yep.
Could you bring those managers together with the Scrum Masters on a regular cadence to align, and so that that person who is a 1 and is a manager is hearing the go forward plan and
Correct.
the why from the larger group. So that means more validity to it than just having a Scrum Master manager connect, right?
Correct.
So, but if we can pull that person into alignment with what the other, a connection point between all of the managers in that line of business and all of the Scrum Masters in that line of business, so that they're all aligned. And then that person isn't off doing his own thing, right? We've all
Correct.
aligned on this is how we want to move forward as a line of business, as an organization. It depends how big you're
Excellent.
talking here, but
Well,
that's
So
and Jamie, kind of some of the challenge, the reason it feels like such a big challenge is the single voice, then help from the person who's a 3, but that's all. Like that's not
Correct.
enough agile-minded voices.
And to watch this too, because what we know is, so Ann, anywhere in orbit around this team that has no connection to you, is there a 4 or 5 out of 5 manager
Yes.
agile mindedness? Get
Yes.
them, get into a room and peer coaching with the 2 of them to talk about the problem and what they need to. If there's somebody in the role who has the mindedness, we can learn out how this person could do their role and live the mindedness. An option is to do what I call bright spot or peer coaching from somebody who has a peer role who gets it more than they do. That's an option. The other is, let's say, for example, if we saw it was the AR as the 1, and Jamie, you're kind of alluding to this too, because you would find it if you did that group thing. What would happen if we found out that the AR's manager was a 5 out of 5? we have a champion right above them who could come in with agile minded and a position of authority, trying to coach and develop this person. We haven't asked what's out further, but it's possible. It's possible that there's an influence through the hierarchy to help this person develop talent, skills, and ability. It's possible there's a bright spot peer coaching session. I've also seen this go across out of other business lines in the company that Anne's in to bring them over and give them an example. Somebody who has that role, that combined role, possibly somewhere else. Let's
It
see
looks
what.
like we have some hands up, some hands raised.
Yeah, let's go for it. What do we got for a raised hand? What do we got for guidance?
So Maru,
Yeah, I was reflecting on why I didn't come up with guidance that I wanted to propose, and I noticed, I'm wondering, is there at least a layer of root cause analysis or contextualization of those challenges missing here? For example, if I'm discussing these challenges with someone like Anne, my initial instinct would be to first check for stuff like agile mindset level 4, 3, in which context, from whose perspective, and also some situational examples, maybe some root causes discussions. It's all speculation anyway, it's just discussions, but just to give me some context before I come up with guidance that Anne is free to evaluate and sort and prioritize and test as she wishes. But I'm wondering, in summary, if there is a step an optional step, I would say, an optional step missing between challenges and guidance provision.
So in general, the concept is we're dealing with averages and numbers. For example, when I work with Anne, we're knee deep in the real details of this discussion. There might be watching events, this, that, really discerning how you would want to play the card to have these conversations. The worksheet, if you're using it with real people in a real situation with real teams, gets much more scribbled on, much more detailed. The goal is you're just capturing the visual of possible lines of influence. Here's what I also know is this particular team has in front of it organizational goals for improvement, strategic improvement goals in the organization that all teams are trying to improve on. So some of these obstacles might be, instead of agile being the goal, might be, where are we 1 out of 5 on our commitment to improve on that strategic goal? And we call out those specifics. So we're not going just with this agile versus non-agile, but we're going out our ability and mindset to champion there. In the real life situation, this is an invitation to a conversation with what shows up. We'd have real people names, we'd have the team in the room, we'd be looking at these, again, in very courageous, right, safe environments. We could be mapping this in a room and see what we think about this. We could be asking people, what do you think everybody is? And everybody gives that person a number, and everybody gives this person a number, and we see where the general numbers. People will see their opinion of themselves, and they'll see the opinions of others. That's, in a safe space, a safe discussion. So there's a lot of discussion here. Basically, the concept is, with a worksheet, we can make visible some of the invisible lines of authority that might be hitting us that we don't understand. Why is this person acting this way or not? This could go after self-management, could go after engagement, could just be our level of agile understanding, and we're dealing with averages. The concept really is, can we use this to force a discussion about understanding our setup, the lines of influence? And while this could be about self-management, this could be about who's a 5 out of 5 for automated testing? Who's a 5 out of 5 for, again, changing how we want to do user stories? These lines of influence are the hierarchy, but the numbers could be for any topic that you want to throw in there and check their mindedness around it. For example, let's talk about the willingness of people to shift out of their role and meet a sprint goal. Who's a 5 out of 5 of that? Who's not? So the concept is, any divergence on a topic, we can show it and talk about what can we do to increase that. So, thank you for the question. Now,
so we're about 3 minutes to time, but if they're, I don't know, Frank, if you have a few minutes to go a little longer on recording, or
I do have to step out, but I want to go to is, again, let's kick over. So you could do this with as many teams as you want. It gets into a lot of detail. So this is where the breakouts are very useful. But the idea is, hopefully we've walked you through the concept. There's a sheet. There's an approach to having these conversations. There's things to ask for. what I want to hear from you guys, again, the last item on our agenda where there is, what was most useful so far in seeing the approach on this worksheet connected up to the last session we had as to why to do this and how we might use this to make things visible so we can have different conversations. What was useful for you guys?
I thought it's tremendously useful that you think about the larger organization, because Scrum is very much isolated to the Scrum team level, right? And to me, it always feels like a lot of problems are outsourced. You know, the product owner, he manages stakeholders and senior leaders. And this way, especially the visualization is like, all right, so, and I think from my practice, most of the problems come top down from the hierarchy and lack of agility, especially towards leadership. And here you can map that out and you can form these alliances with the layered champions to try to at least identify that.
Yes.
I'm still skeptical about kind of how you can systemically bring these people in the fold and influence them in a good way. Like to
So
get
it's
a 1 to
interesting.
5, that would be great for a session number 3 if you tell us about case studies. How do you get a 1 to a 5 systematically with this kind of setup? But
Right.
like just involving the larger organization outside of the Scrum team and trying to bring them into a sphere of influence, I think is super helpful.
So again, the mapping is, if we're having a problem, let's map it, see where we can find maybe stemming from, as opposed to just saying it's just, well, we have to solve it with education. We can't always solve with education. We can't always solve with coaching. Somehow we have to influence it. What I know is in the situation where they're set up, what I brought into that organization, there's the teams, there's the layered champions, there's layers around all the layered champions working as a team, and there's the leadership level up here acting as a team. And so is it perfect? No, but is it much more aligned? They have strategic goals for improvement, top to bottom. There's 3 of them, right? I'm going to state them: predictability, sustainability, and people matter. Top to bottom, left to right, that's their goal. When they have an obstacle, it better be an obstacle to one of those, not just a pet peeve. And so they have an aligned organization with concentric circles that I also call solving layers. And so the mapping of the individuals may or may not be the way to go, but depending on the problem, when you're trying to find what might be the root cause of this lack of willingness, and you go trace, and there's the ones, there they are. Tell me about how that one's behaving. Are they a champion? Or are they part of the contributor? So the mapping of it is important, but we're trying to shift it from, if we're escalating, which is a word people use with this sometimes, we're escalating problems. It's solving layers, not escalating. And we do it by going to the next team. And each outer layer is accountable for the next inner layer to solve and not have to go up, to solve and not have to go up, to solve and not have to go. The outer layers need to be confident the inner layers can solve. If they are not, the outer layer has work to do to solve for inner layers.
And the outer layer asking the question, if and when things bubble up, the first question is, has this been addressed by the lower layers? Enabling that and empowering those lower layers to at least try.
Here's something we put in recently where Anne's talking about. There was a layer missing and people were escalating right up to head of product talking head of technology, and I would get wind of it. I'd just be out in orbit and I'd get wind of it. There was a layer missing. So we changed and put a layer in there to solve, a team layer to solve. And we put in another habit, the leader layers. If your first answer is it should be when somebody escalates, email or verbal, is, have you taken this to a lower layer before bringing it to us? If the answer is, I have not, please take this down to an appropriate lower layer. We will do nothing with it, even though we're aware of it. Make sure the layers are solving. Use the layers, use the teams around you. So I know we're at time, but that's the general concept is layered champions is a team of champions layered around a team. It can have concentric layers. It has representation as it goes out. They are not there to manage the team. They are there to help remove obstacles that inner layers can't solve. And again, what we're talking about now, a lot of places I talk about strategic improvement goals. They're strategic goals often, but what are the strategic improvement goals? Goals without increasing the likelihood of achieving those goals is risky. And the layered champions is one method to make sure we're aligned on layering and helping. We're aligned on the strategic goals. We're aligned on the strategic improvement goals, top to bottom, left to right. So again, I have to jump out, but I appreciate the time today. What I do want to hear is from at least one more person, what was very valuable? Somebody come off mic and tell me what was valuable.
I can share something. I'm trained in systemic coaching, so constellations is part of my constant work, including visualizations and analysis of forces, etc. However, I find it very tough to communicate about systemic aspects with people who are not initiated. They use the word a lot, but if you're not trained and spend 600 hours plus you had to spend 100 hours of practice and 10 hours of revision per year, it's a very different vocabulary and it's very tough to get into that space. You can't just expect people to understand what you're talking about. It's not because you think you're smarter, it's just because you actually, if you're smarter, you actually would be able to communicate better. And so this is what I'm learning. Using models like this, I think my hypothesis would help me with that kind of communication, would make me more intelligent and intelligible.
Yes,
That's what I
simpler,
think.
right? It takes a lot of work to simplify.
It's super simple compared to what we do in systemic coaching. And that's I think would make me a lot more intelligent in the context of my work, or impactful, or both. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mario. So no, I need to jump out. Again, Jamie, thank you for having me come in. I mean, I will send a copy of that PDF of that sheet out. You guys are welcome to use it. I find it works in one-on-one, sitting down with a Scrum Master. When I intersect with new teams, I often pull it out, have them map it out for me, because I'm being pulled as a satellite into a situation. Again, I'll often ask, like, all right, who's the product and who's the Scrum? I just need to map it in my head or on a sheet. So when they're talking about a challenge, I can go, ooh, look, it's matching up with a possible weakness and mindedness. So I just, in an attempt to solve, I want as much information about the situation as quickly as I can. I care about hierarchy. I care about reporting structure. I care about agile mindedness. I also care what that person's perspective is. So.
All right. Well, thanks for coming, Frank. We really appreciate you coming twice now for this. So thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing your knowledge in this wonderful notion of layered champions. Appreciate it. And all of you who came today, thank you. Good to see everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
for all your
Frank.
ideas,
Thanks,
everyone.
Jamie.
Yep. Have a
Bye.
wonderful weekend, everyone.
Happy Friday.
Yeah. Happy Friday. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Jamie.